You know how sometimes you get sides and you're like, okay, I can do this.
Right.
And then sometimes you get sides and it's like your insides set on fire and you have to do this.
Yeah,
like, you want to do it so bad and you immediately see this role like in like just like filling you up and it lights you up in all kinds of ways.
Totally.
That's an important audition.
I think that's exactly my definition. That's
We have Sam here, who is an actor in Los Angeles, California.
That's
I'm
an
used to
important.
being the center of attention and nobody else.
She hates
we're
you.
We're gonna fight.
Yeah.
Only one co-host will remain.
I know. By the end of this, who has the hottest takes? This is fun because we have two actors here and you have very different backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps you're interested in different things too.
Mm-hmm.
So Hay is really, she loves the multicam. She loves comedy.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thing?
My thing.
What do you want to do? What do you like?
I mean, I'm open to multicam and comedy.
You
yeah.
can't have my thing.
No, we're fighting. Honestly, I feel like my thing is to try to not have a thing. Maybe if that's a good answer. I feel like that would be like trying to just like constantly keep exploring. Would be the goal. I guess.
I like that. Yeah.
Do you feel similarly, or do you feel like you're like, oh, I really
I've
wanna
got a
hone my niche?
chokehold on multicam. Recently musical theater, but
Right.
But she knows I'll never go to see those.
Indy will
so.
never come see
You
my
can't do
shows
it.
if I do musical
He's
theater.
like, "Oh."
Not even for your friend?
Maybe not.
If it's good, I don't know. I'm not just gonna
Maybe
go
not.
though. I'll go to anything, but not that.
Yeah.
You
So,
go to literally.
it's okay. That's not
the bane of your existence.
I can't.
When I finally admitted, this was a whole journey for me getting to a place where I could admit that I love musical theater and want to be in musicals.
To Indy or to anybody?
To anybody.
Okay,
To
okay.
anybody, to
To
myself.
me.
You were ashamed of it as well.
I was, yes.
Okay.
Deeply.
Yeah.
Until I finally, this year, I was like, you know what? It's fine. Like, I really love it. I really want to do it.
Yeah.
And I had, like, reached a reconciliation with myself, told a few people who were supportive, and then I told Indy, and she was like, I fucking hate musical theater.
No.
And I made her listen to something that I wanted to learn how to sing, and she's like, this is stupid. I fucking hate this. And I was like, that's okay. Because I've reached a place in my life where I don't need you to think I'm cool.
Isn't that amazing what I did there?
You gave her like a full arc. You
Yeah.
you were what she had to overcome.
Yeah. I'm very supportive. I'm like a mom in most things, but when it comes to musicals, get me the fuck out of there.
My
She's
God.
supportive of me singing. But
Yes.
she doesn't want to hear it. And she doesn't want to come
Yeah.
see
No, I'll
the show.
listen if it's not musical related though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, if it's not like a
unfortunately, that's
musical
the
theater.
only thing I want to say.
I know. Yeah. No
Right.
Jackson Brown on there.
No.
That's fine.
You're a big Jackson Brown.
Oh my
fan.
God,
You
she
don't even
loves
understand.
Do I just open a can of
Yeah, yeah.
Jackson Brown
It's not
words?
about me. Let's talk about you. So you grew up in LA.
I grew up in LA, yeah.
Wow.
I feel like I'm gonna have 70 existential crises as I talk about myself because I'm like, oh yeah, my name's Sam. Yeah, like I'll forget.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's okay.
But I'll find myself in this interview, I think.
Yeah,
I
good.
think
I'm
this will
happy.
be- yeah.
We'll offer that for you.
Thank you. No, I need it from you guys.
You're
Yeah.
gonna. She plays good cop though. I play bad cop
No,
normally.
I assume. I feel like that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. But okay, grew up in LA.
I grew up in LA.
Where?
I grew up in the west side
Okay.
of LA.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because I feel like it's a rather unexceptional place for me because I feel like I just like, oh yeah, this is
your home.
Yeah, right.
This
It's like,
is where I grew up.
yeah, like a blue ball in front of a blue painting. You know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
just like,
yeah.
okay, cool.
Did you know film was happening in LA when you were growing up? Was it a big part of your life? Like,
I feel like it was, but also in an unexceptional way. My dad does film.
okay,
My mom does music.
was it a big thing around the house? Like,
Yeah, I mean, it was a mundane thing. Like it was just
That's
like it's like
interesting, yeah.
the fabric of existence.
Yeah.
You know, like I wouldn't exist without it
yeah,
because my dad wouldn't have met my mom without it. So it's like I am literally spawned. I don't know. It's weird to think about, but
no, it's great.
But it was just like that. Those were their jobs.
it was their job.
That was just their
yeah.
job.
I mean, it was
they're-
just so different compared to people like Haley, right? Like you're
my mom
not-
was a ballet teacher. My dad was like a computer guy.
Yeah.
I don't even know what his
He was a
job
hacker.
was.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
he just
He's
like
a hacker.
he
Yeah.
just had a computer that he'd worked on.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Which
right.
is the interesting thing, because if it's like a mundane thing,
Mhm.
and then now you decided early on to become an actor.
Yeah.
What does that look like when you're seeing mundane things? Why acting then?
We'd spend any given evening just watching something.
Okay.
It was just a way to communicate,
Yeah.
like you just share a film,
Yeah.
that you had seen that you'd liked. Because of that, like I sort of absorbed that like osmosis, and then with friends, it was the same thing. Like that's how I learned to bond with people, was just like what are you watching, and when I was a little kid, like that was how we played, was we would just like pick up a camera and start filming, and they'd make no sense. And
Yeah, love that.
no, I don't even know if they even exist anymore, but
Yeah.
because it like that wasn't really the point. Sort of as I grew up and I started doing theater in high school.
Yeah.
Maybe did you do theater?
No, I didn't do theater in high
Hey.
school.
No shame.
Only my senior year.
Okay.
I took a theater class my senior year.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did you do a play, or
I did a play.
what play?
It's a musical theater.
It was. Yes.
Do you want to leave for a sec?
I actually have to in 1 minute. So I'll let you guys talk
No,
about it later.
I was just thinking about it's very funny because I had no desire to act at all in high school until my senior year. I needed to just like fulfill an art credit.
Sure.
And then I auditioned for a play just because, but it ended up being a musical that my teacher wrote. It was like
No.
a Cinderella thing, and I ended up playing like a page, and I sang a song on stage.
Nice. That was your debut.
Introduction.
Yeah.
And
Right.
theater was for you in high school.
It was weird because I feel like I didn't even know I that was sort of my intro, and I did it only because my brother did it. Like it wasn't even something I was seriously considering as like, this is gonna be me.
Yeah.
He stopped doing it when he graduated high school, and I just like kept doing it.
Oh wow. Okay.
And again, it wasn't like even my parents always like warned me away from doing film just because they knew how like mentally taxing it was, and
Especially
how,
acting too.
right. And they were like, yeah, right. Like they said, if you have to do film, just don't do acting.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, cool. Like that seems like a good.
You're like, act? Okay, got
Okay,
it. I'll do it.
I'll go and do that.
Acting,
Yes.
do acting.
Yeah.
Right. All the while, I slowly assumed I went like, oh, it makes sense. Like I do really love film. I love writing, but I sort of was like, I'm doing this acting thing is just for fun.
Okay.
And so all the while I was thinking I was going to be a writer, and I was just sort of doing that. And honestly, that allowed, really am grateful in some weird way that I wasn't thinking about any of that theater very seriously.
Yeah.
Because I felt like it allowed me to just like, now I like cherish that sort of freedom and play now, because now that I actually stake my self-worth
Yeah.
on it, like I'm so racked with anxiety
Oh my God.
all the time. I graduated high school, and then I was like, all right, like playtime's over. I'm
Wow.
gonna be a writer. And then
Oh wow. Okay. So
Um,
you thought writer first. You were like, that feels good because everyone keeps telling me not to act.
yeah, yeah. And so therefore I was like, only do it. This isn't acting. This is just like me
Yes.
hanging out with people,
Yeah.
me playing around
Yeah.
or whatever. But I loved it. I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't, I did have a connection to it, but it was sort of, I had a connection to the community there.
Yes.
I had a connection to that theater,
Yes.
that black box. I just sort of started to realize like there was this very large chunk of my life that felt missing. Like, and I was watching more and more movies, and
Mhm.
sort of as a way of like grounding myself in that weird
Because that was your like
existential
language of communication.
Yeah.
Method.
Yeah.
Sorry, method of communication.
method
Yeah.
of communication.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. I just started to wonder about, like, I would see a part and I'd be like, oh, that would be fun. Like,
Yeah.
I missed the fun of it.
Yeah. You
and-
weren't looking at the other aspects. You were like, it's a role I want.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like-
right.
It's not like, oh, I would have shot that differently. It was like, you're going right into character.
Right.
Yeah.
It became the way, partially because I had done so much theater.
So you decided to become an actor.
Yes. Okay. Yes. So
What did your parents say?
So
And
my
they
parents were like,
"Mm."
oh, be careful. But they were supportive, of course, and they had seen me in they had my mom went to every performance of every play I was ever in. Like
every single she went to matinee and the one
she
at
would
night.
when she knew that the tickets were like should be coming out anytime soon, she would like stalk the website and then would buy the same seat every night. Like, so she would be front row center. She was like determined.
So
and it was
sweet.
like it was to the point that she became sort of a fixture of our theater. Was like my mom sitting front row center,
Cheering
literally
everyone
front row,
on.
and she would just sit there and smile, and she does this funny little like davening thing where she like kind of rocks slightly when she's like engaged, and so she just would be like, and like my friends can all do to this day do a Sue impression.
I love that.
Which was great. I was like the most supported child
Great.
to ever be born.
And
So-
how do you feel about that now in acting? Do you feel supported?
Yeah, by my parents, definitely.
Okay.
By my own mind.
So you hate yourself.
Yeah, I hate myself.
I'm just
I
kidding.
was trying to say, no, that's more succinct.
Yeah.
No, I don't. It's just that I think in school I tried to work hard at getting good grades and stuff. And I feel like I now over apply that, like, this is not good enough.
Because you're
sort of
like, there's no
mentality.
grade in this that I
Right.
could be getting at the
And
moment.
yet, like, I'm still like conditioned.
How
for,
do I
like,
measure this?
Yeah. How do I quantify the success of this thing? And if it's impossible to do that. And so everything is not quite like, if I'm not feeling some sort of like, oh, of course that's good and I'm pleased with that, then it like typically my mind is like, well, why is that?
Okay.
It's bad. And then I'll, really circle around that, which is maybe a habit I should break.
We all got them. I get it.
Yeah.
When you decided to get into acting, you had grown up in LA.
Yeah.
Where was the first place you went? What was the first thing you did? Like acting class wise or reaching out to support? Or...
Yeah. I had the very rare and bizarre experience of going to like a West LA high school where lots of industry kids sent their industry brats to. So I would do these plays. Frequently, the audience was filled with like directors,
Big,
like
big people
because
who
their
make
kids
big
were
things.
right. And I'm also grateful and cherish that freedom that I felt despite that, because I was like, I'm not gonna do this though, so it's cool, I can just have fun.
Yeah.
And then at the time I'm like in awe of myself, if I can say that, but like after a show, people would come up and be like do you want to do acting? I'd be like, no. Like,
Oh, no.
Thanks for coming. Bye. Like,
Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah.
The perk of that was that then when I went to college and I realized this epiphany of like, oh no, I'm really, this is an art form that I do want to speak in. I was able to ring up those connections that I had sort of unconsciously made.
Good.
Which was, again, so lucky to have been put in even a position to be adjacent to those people. I was able to, meet with them and get their advice. And then they were sort of the general advice was just like, do as much as you possibly can right now. Just be in everything, audition for everything, to the brink of your own sanity. Just do everything.
Timeline wise, how long ago was that?
It was freshman year of college. So that was about 5 years.
5 years ago,
Yeah,
you
give or
rung
take.
up people and you were
And
like,
I was
tell
like,
me what's the sweet spot.
yeah,
What can I do?
What can I do?
Yeah.
What should I do? I want to do this. I'm sort of like bolt of lightning moment. Like, how should I even begin?
Yeah.
Someone told me, a person I greatly trust was like, just raise your hand as much as you can. Like,
Got
just
it.
like keep throwing it up and volunteering and doing anything. So then in college, I threw myself back into theater, but I also threw myself into short films and sketch comedy and sort of just any kind of performance opportunity I could find or heard about. I would
Okay.
just be like, I can do that.
Yeah.
And
so when you started doing that, how much stuff were you doing? How many things were you doing?
definitely too much in that first like chunk of time. I started to be like, oh, this is the brink of my sanity. Like,
Got it.
Found it. I was doing 2 plays. I was doing sketch comedy, to the point that people were like pissed at me
For taking everything?
And they were like, no, you have to be able to commit to, a rehearsal schedule because you're being crazy. From there, I just like sort of built up a little reel that I was
Yeah.
able to then sort of be like, well, what do you guys think? The people who gave me that advice, like, this is sort of what I've been doing. They were able to be like, oh, actually, like, that's not bad. Like, well, I can send them along to some sort of representative.
Okay.
Which, again, like, it was just sort of happy all this was like a happy accident.
Yeah.
And then I was able to get like a manager in college, which I was
through that connection?
Through those connections, yeah.
Wow.
The way you got your manager, very different compared to the way you got your manager. I want to talk about those two paths.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Tell us about that. Haley's like, yep, let's
the way
get into
I got
it.
my manager is I sent probably 200 emails.
Yeah.
You know, asking for, you know, meetings, advice meetings, generals. I put a packet together with, you know, my old headshots that I'm like embarrassed of now, and like any kind of footage I had, a resume and an email just being like, hey, I'd love to meet.
Which must have been so stressful.
It was, and it would have been more stressful, but I had decided to do it as research instead of like I wasn't trying to promote myself. I just kept track of everyone I sent it to and saw who was emailing me back. Like that was the whole thing. I had to like, trick myself.
Yeah.
And I took some meetings and met a manager that I really liked and signed. Like she was kind of like my first or second meeting that I took.
Wow. Cool.
We just really clicked.
You hit it off. And what were you looking for? And what do you think they were looking for in you?
Anything at the time.
Yeah.
But I had decided that I wanted to do multicam sitcom, and I had like created kind of like a path for myself, and I think that finding someone who was supportive of that path instead of someone who was like, actually, I met with someone who was like really disappointed that I was in the Screen Actors Guild. She was like, no, like you're not ready. Like she wanted to be setting me out for non-union stuff because it's harder to get a new SAG actor into rooms, which is understandable. Because then I'm, you know,
there's a barrier to entry a little bit.
Yeah, but her money would come if I booked more, and I would have booked more if I was non-union. And that was something that I was like, but I'm looking at a long-term goal here,
sure.
and that doesn't involve me not being a member of the union.
What was your meeting like?
I had already, I believe at that point, gathered materials, and I was already sort of like passing them around and being like, we're asking, you know, what do you think of this? Like, and there would be a sort of like some very embarrassing misunderstandings of what the meeting was about, where I'd be like, I'd show up and be like, hey, so what, like, what do you think? Like, can I send you anything? Like, you know, whatever, like, would you be interested? And he was like, oh, wait, no, I'm not representing you. I just want to make that very clear. And he'd be like, oh.
So what was the meeting?
And they were like, they thought it was like more of an informational meeting, where meanwhile, I'm this like eager little shit, like just like, what's next, guy?
What's next?
But
can I get my name
sign
and lights?
me up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. So that was, gathering embarrassing stories has to be like something that's, I don't know, I'm trying to contextualize that as like a positive. That means you're doing something good, is like if you're risking
being vulnerable and
yeah.
putting yourself out there.
God, it's your late night talk show stories.
Right.
That's what you're doing.
Right.
You're
or
getting those stories together.
Podcast story. Yeah. But then when I actually got in the room with John, like I was so immediately lucky, and he's just like, I don't know, I will never stop singing the praises of John. He's like the best. He's the best person.
What was the first step when you got signed, and then like what comes next? Then
it's like, well, when we start working together, it's like something I had to sing for or something like that. We were talking about singing. This was also pre-pandemic. So I was like initially going into rooms and I was like, this is like the first time I've ever done this. And like, they're like, you know, this is the first time. It's like very much the traditional, like what you see in a movie of like someone like turning on a camera and being like, all right. And then like the reader's doing this like weird thing. And you're like trying to like, do I do that? What they're doing? And like, just like making every mistake in the world. And then, I left, I went back to school, and it was nice because I sort of, without even realizing it, was getting training for the pandemic and post-pandemic. era because I was doing self-tapes. I was
Right.
taping from school. And then when I would come home, I would do in-person tapes. And then the pandemic came around, and then everything was self-tapes. I'm just speaking what everyone knows, but like, it becomes its own art form, sort of, is like learning to do it in a cozy, comfortable atmosphere. I was able to start like self-taping in the beginning of sophomore year.
Okay. Were you taking classes?
No. So I was, at that time I wasn't, I was sort of just like doing it. I would do these self-tapes and they wouldn't go anywhere, of course, but that's just the nature of things. But I was able to, like sort of I was able to sort of show myself to people like through that, I guess. And I was studying like art history and film. My class schedule was like totally not acting.
Mm-hmm.
When I graduated, I wanted to feel progress.
Yeah. And
like as an actor, you can't, it's so difficult to feel any sort of progress because you feel like it's just these like, it's like, it's not linear whatsoever.
Yeah. You're like, what are the milestones here?
Yeah. Do I even know, am I getting worse?
Yeah.
And so I started doing acting classes when I left college.
Okay, let's talk about that, because Haley and I have chatted extensively about the types of acting classes that she felt were worth it, but also like the types that she's taken. And so I'd love to do like a class off,
like a compare and contrast.
You'll probably win. I mean,
I mean, like, let's just
I surrender immediately.
This isn't a competition.
I just want to know like what you both have taken in LA, what you've both liked, what you found was useful, what wasn't, and I want to see if there's similarity, comparison, stuff like that. So, Haley, let's give it a go.
Yeah.
Let's start talking. Because I don't know this stuff. So, acting classes, types of acting classes. What type? Yeah.
I mean, oh my God, the types of acting class. There's scene study.
Of course.
There's like on-camera audition stuff. There's, improv.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are like the niche, like the business class.
Yeah.
And the like just for commercial class.
Right.
Or there's the cold reading class.
Totally.
Things like that. What are you said you're in class now.
What are
you doing now?
I'm doing, it's like a half scene study, half sort of actor's studio. She comes from the actor's studio.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of exercises, sense memory, emotional memory, that kind of thing. And then picking a project, like a scene to work on.
How many hours is that every week?
I think it's like 10:45 to 4,
Uh-huh.
essentially. So
It's a long day.
It's a long day.
Yeah, and it's
I
just
need
one
to
day
eat
a week.
snacks throughout. It's one day a week. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So you go to class and you do like an exercise.
Yeah.
right?
So you show up and you sort of, she does some, it's almost yoga, similar, adjacent to yoga, and then you try to like really be present in your body, and then it gets sort of into that like, wow, like not spiritual, but like, and that's always like a slight danger of certain acting classes, which I feel safe from in this, which I'm thankful for. But, there's always the sort of cult leader mentality.
Yeah.
I'm sure you
exactly
might have
what you're
experience.
talking
Yeah. So you always have to be a little on guard for that, but it's nice to know that I trust this class.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so then you do sensory work where you're working on something each week, where it's like you start with morning drink.
Mm-hmm.
You have to like work with a morning drink throughout the week, where you just like are touching the drink and you're like asking questions about the drink, like how hot is it on my ring finger as opposed to how hot it is on my pinky finger, like, and
so
then
very like Uta Hagen type of method.
Classic.
Yeah.
And then when you come into class, then having done your homework, you hopefully can sort of try to ask similar questions, and you're trying to like sort of conjure up those sensations again. So then you can work up to like a sound you love, or like, a smell you hate, or something like that. And then if you can start to like pick that up, and it actually starts to like bring something about, which obviously is incredibly, very rarely works for me. I mean, I'm working towards it working, I guess. When it does, you're like, whoa. It's like very visceral. And then, you can start using that in a scene, like if it's a hot day, you can be cold, or you can be on it, or vice versa. Or if you're with a person you just met, but you have to be in a deeply romantic relationship with them on camera, you can start to like think of a smell you love or something like that.
And then do you work on a scene as well in this class?
Yeah. We then we pick or she's got like a encyclopedic brain, but we find scenes from plays.
Yeah.
Or it's something that we're working on, in our own time, but we'll get some scenes from plays. We'll find people that are sort of like fun that we haven't worked with before. And then we'll just start sort of putting it up every week, rehearsing it.
So she doesn't pair you up. You find your scene partner.
No. Sometimes she'll pair you up. And sometimes if you're like, hey, like, it'd be cool to work with that person. They're cool. Like, I've seen that happen. I haven't done that. I'm very lucky that everyone in the class is great. So, or just very fun to work with.
Do you rehearse outside of class as well?
Yeah.
How many, does she have like an hours requirement? Like how many hours you have to work
She doesn't have a requirement. It's good to meet with them like twice. I sort of feel like, and you work towards it. You do the scene. It doesn't need to. In fact, odds are it's kind of gonna bomb the first time you do it.
Yeah.
You're gonna like do every mistake, and it's kind of the goal is to do every mistake you can possibly do as fast as you can to kind of like, let's just like marathon fuck up like every single aspect of this, and then you can then start to find the things that I'm sure you. What are your sort of experiences? Are you in classes right now?
Yeah, they're very different though. That is the sort of training that I had in college. Like it sounds like what you would do in kind of like a conservatory style training program.
Totally.
She's like, I did that years ago.
Wow,
I am so beyond that.
I feel like an asshole.
No,
well, I just
she's been at it longer.
I think that is really, it's really great that that's something that you can find here, because like you're concurrently, I guess you're not in school anymore.
No.
But you were in school, and you can study what you're studying in school, but you can also find this like really high caliber of acting training in a ongoing course. And what do you pay per month for that?
I believe per month that's $400.
Such a great way to like really like, especially if you're coming here and you studied something completely different in college, but you have realized that you want to try this. Finding something like that is a really great way to like deeply dive into different methods in a way that you would in a university setting.
Totally, which is something that I'm constantly vexing about, is like whether or not to try even think about going to some sort of grad school.
Yeah.
Because I didn't study in college. I didn't study like departmentally. It feels like a nice first. Beyond like what I did in high school, which was like the only other training I had.
Yeah.
And improv classes. But
what other classes have you been taking?
I did improv with UCB before the pandemic.
Okay. And Haley's just getting into improv now.
Hey now.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Where are you going?
Probably Groundlings.
Cool.
But it's only as soon as it's off Zoom. I don't want to do improv.
Yeah, Zoom class is such a bizarre, unique, new thing.
Yeah. Some classes I'm sure it's fine. I took a lot of classes over Zoom.
Oh yeah.
When during
she
the
did
pandemic.
a lot of classes.
Yeah, what was that like?
I yawn a lot when I'm on a Zoom class, so it just seemed like I was like disinterested or tired the whole time. I mean, it was fine. I did, like their casting director workshops where you just like prepare sides, you know, and that's fine. There is one school that is all over Zoom. They don't have a studio at all. They probably never will, and their reasoning is that the so much of auditioning is on a Zoom or like a self-tape now. So they're like training you to act inside of this box and to do it well enough and to be captivating enough. And I enjoyed my classes with them until I realized that I was just like spending so much time sitting in front of a laptop studying with them.
And if you like work from home also, like you just like wake up and then you wake up digitally and then you go to sleep digitally and then go to sleep.
Yeah.
Did you, manager-wise, how did your life change when you signed?
When I started working with them in college, it was essentially like almost like I would just try to sort of fit it into my class schedule. It was almost like as if I was taking an acting class, which I was lucky to be doing. Like I just sort of slotted, like I looked at my week at a glance and then a new thing would come through and I'd be like, oh, okay, like I can squeeze that there and I can squeeze the prep there and I can squeeze the memorization there and, you know, all that. And then I would have to wrangle a kid to like a small child. I found a baby. I found a small toddler to read with me. No, I would find like my roommate or like, you know, my friends, or even if my friends were busy. That's like honestly one of my, it's just, that is the challenge so much of the time. It's just like hunting a reader.
Have you heard of WeAudition?
No, what is that?
I'm about to turn you on to something so great.
Dude.
WeAudition is an online platform where actors just go online and they're available to read with you.
No way.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is a Zoom.
No, sure.
But they're there to read, and it's like a lot of the time really good actors.
Wow.
Who are you just send them a PDF and then you send them a little tip after.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, so you can like actually make some cash?
Yeah, not a lot.
No,
but
right.
Like, you know, I've tipped people like $10 sometimes,
sure.
depending on like how long they've spent with
Wait,
me.
that's really cool.
WeAudition.
WeAudition.
Yeah. We're not sponsored, but we do love them.
We support them greatly. Thank you.
I'll include myself in
Thank
I guess.
WeAudition.
I've never used the service, but I hear it's wonderful.
I'm a big fan because finding someone to read with you
yeah.
is I have such guilt about being like, please come over to my house. There's no parking where I live. So I'm like, please circle for an hour and find a place to park and then come read with me for 15 minutes. And then what? I just send you home? Never.
Right.
No, it always turns into me buying that person dinner.
That's
so
what,
it's
that's
a
what
whole
I do.
night. It's a whole night. They come over to read. We finish, I put it away, and then we have to go to dinner, and I spend $100 because I'm
Where
so
was
grateful.
my invite for these dinners?
It's always
I'm a
Doug.
good reader.
Always
Oh my God.
They're usually musical theater auditions. So.
Never mind.
No, I totally agree because there's like literally nothing in it for them otherwise. Like it is truly, you're asking them to do such a big favor for you.
Oh my God. Tell Sam about Camry Maj, Sydney and I helping you with your audition.
I had an audition while we were in
Poland for Camry Maj.
First of all, there was like, I didn't bring like a setup because I was, I didn't have the package space to bring it. Fair. Everyone should have a travel setup. I have one. I didn't bring it with me. I will
encounter a very similar problem, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I got an audition and I was like, I need you to help me. So we set it up, and the only place that I had like enough blank wall was on top of my bed. So I was standing / sitting on top of my bed, and for like the full body slate, I like I was like, I'm not gonna pretend this isn't a bed, so I like jumped on the bed.
Good.
My profile. Good. And then I had Inde and Sydney,
who's a director friend of ours. Yeah, coaching
was
her,
directing and coaching me. Inde was coaching me. It was the best audition I've ever done.
Yeah, it was actually amazing.
Seriously, it was your opus.
It was
audition?
pretty good.
It was great.
I had a lot of input from people.
Yeah, we were like, okay, can you? I like literally gave her eyeline notes. I'm like, and now for this, like for this moment, you're like playing with this like necklace, trying to get it undone, but then like make sure you look over it, like and then
yeah.
So it wasn't just like, Mom, blah blah blah. It was just like, look here, and then for that line, look down, and then like look over here, and then like we like did a whole thing.
It was a very, very technical.
It sounds like
it was fun.
A lesson in cinematography
for actors.
One might say.
It's
funny. I heard there is a online
course platform.
Oh my God! What
for that?
Oh,
for
I feel like you were invited to the beta and never signed in.
What?
I was.
Oh my god!
I was
because I can see logins. So
he's like, yeah, I totally did it. It was great.
We're like, sorry, I wasn't gonna pretend.
I'm just teasing you. It's
I'm gonna do it.
Your best friend Adam was very helpful.
I'm sure
he made up for it.
Yes, he gives good insight.
Pages of notes.
Seriously? Oh, well, that sounds like him.
Yeah,
that's great. There you go.
I can see logins, Sam.
You're going to see one tonight.
You're never logging into that. You're going to be like, where's that email?
You're going to see a login moments after this interview is done.
Yeah, exactly. Just so I can see that's active. Yeah.
It is so rare for there to be an actual like technical school and like for the performance, because I feel like
It's fine. You're like learning how to grip a mug. You're good. You're fine. You're set.
You're in tight.
I'll
You're
get there,
still
right?
in salad, technical vegetable.
Yeah.
I love it. I mean, I love hearing about all of this because it's just something we never get to hear about on crew side. So
yeah, I want to ask you about Pterry. You hadn't like shot. Have you shot anything?
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, in a very, 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 very amateur sense, all throughout my life, I had shot stuff. Like, again, like it was sort of like a game, you know what I mean? Like we would just kind of do it constantly.
It is an interesting angle because you do have experience with a camera. You do kind of understand what a frame looks like and what kind of like moving a certain way means.
Yeah.
So a lot of like the stuff that like I, coming purely from a theatrical training, was intimidated by and like had absolutely no understanding of, you come kind of with that built in from childhood.
Yeah, but then also, yes, that is nice to say, but like I also sometimes then you'll realize that if you're relying on that, like I would get like even on Pterry, like I'm so like nervous of like, wait, is my head at the right angle for the, you know what I mean? Like, because when you're actually like when you're doing it with friends, like it can be like so just like you know what I mean? Like, and then you're just like, great, let's throw it on iMovie or whatever. When you're actually under like the industrial lights and stuff, like suddenly things do feel a lot different. And that's where I'm like, oh crap, like I really am just getting started. Like there's a lot to learn, especially from actors like you, like where it's like you know the set, you know the nature of a set, you know the nature of a crew. Like this, Pterry really was my first SAG credit.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm very much a newbie.
And so what was that? So let's talk about your character, Rex.
Yeah.
It's
cool.
like this is Mikey promotional material.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that character. But you were talking about earlier before we started this up that you were like, how do I relate to this character who is so different than who I know myself to be?
Right.
And I found that interesting because I mean that's like, and part of the actor's job, and you were able to find the places that you did relate, right? Is that correct?
Well, I think like I feel like that's like it's a good place to start. And then the other thing is like it's interesting with Rex in particular, like there was honestly, admittedly, like some judgment that I was feeling towards him. Of course. I mean he's a slightly abrasive individual. He
was the bully in the film.
He's a bully.
A terrible person.
Very traditional.
Mean, jokes about suicide, people killing themselves.
He's pretty insensitive.
Looking for validation from his father.
Right. And then obviously, yes, right. Like then you can start to dig down. But I think the first thing that I was trying to do was just like, how do I even begin to not just like right out of the gate judge from the perspective of Sam, judge Rex. And so I watched a lot of TikTok, but like specifically like a lot of like influencers.
Yeah.
Who like
he is an influencer in the film.
Yes. He's supposed to. He's on Click Clack. He's a Click Clack star. Headed for the Click Clack Hall of Fame. I watched a lot of like little mini documentaries about like hype houses and stuff.
Yep.
Because like it's such a bizarre world to me, or was at the time. Now, I mean, it still is. I didn't ever actually go to one. That would be fun. But I'm friends with them now.
Yeah.
But it's just like, to me, they're like, I didn't realize how much they were like little businessmen and businesswomen.
Yeah.
Like they really are. Because to me, I'm like, oh, like what even, like what, unfortunately, I'm like, what even is the enjoyment factor to watching them? And I started to get it. And by the end, I was like these people are trying to entertain people. Like they're entertainers. It's just that they like it's such a accelerated process nowadays, and like it really is a factory. Like it's like they really are going for like top. I mean, and they're making tons of money, like which is crazy. So it's like, to me, I felt like I was trying to empathize with Rex as a start, just as like, well, I'm trying to do entertainment. I'm trying to entertain. He's trying to entertain. He's trying to be an entertainer. He's trying to be a professional entertainer. He sort of has this head start, which he very much, or may not often, or odds are not, deserves. that sentence was clunky, but you get what I'm trying to say. Like, like he really is reaping the benefits of where he grew up and all of that, but with no shame, you know what I mean? And that was like, I don't know, that trying to figure that out and trying to not just come at a place of like, because then if you judge the character, you kind of will do a caricature of them, and it'll be coming from a place like you're trying to do a portrait of this person, and if they like, you want them to like recognize themselves too, you know? So, and Mikey did such a beautiful job. I love the arc is really what sort of opened the door to Rex for me, like how much that validation from others, even people he's bullying, you know, like I think he does secretly want like Pterry to like him, like, as weird as that sounds. Yeah, I mean, what's your process when you're like encountering a person like, or a character, I should say, that you initially find like sort of repulsive?
I feel like it's very similar to what you said. It's you find, I mean, we all contain multitudes, right? So like you find kind of like a point in your life or yourself or your personality that you can connect to that person, and then it like blossoms from there. Right, you find a similarity.
Right. I had a friend sort of describe like you're like, it's almost like a vibration. You're trying to like resonate at the same level. I know that's all sort of like, when you get into like the nitty gritty of acting, it so often just becomes like you're trying to like hold the water, and like it, like the metaphors just, it just becomes this weird poetic space. It's like you're trying to sort of vibrate at the same, like you're trying to sort of reach the same frequency as the character, and in some ways you're trying to tune the character more towards you, and you're trying to tune yourself more towards this person.
You did the research. You felt like you could understand them. You're not doing a caricature. You're like really them. You're really
trying
Rex.
to,
Yeah. You get on set. The crew is involved. Lights are there.
Yeah.
Cameras there. What's the next step of that process for you?
Abject terror and insecurity is the next step. And
why do you think you feel that?
That's a really good. If I figured that out, I would probably be a lot happier of a person. But
because you're not feeling insecure while you're like doing the work at home.
No,
right?
I guess not. I guess on a great day, like it does return to that like old school play, right? And it is, as Mikey always seems like says, like it's supposed to be fun. You know what I mean? Like we are getting to be big children. I watched his episode as
I'm
research.
Glad.
Yeah.
How was working with me? How was working with Kato? How was working with like crew while trying to perform?
I think the step that I was trying to, again, it's like it always, like the first step that I was coming towards it with was like just trying to accept the fact that I was terrified, because I think there's like a whole meta anxiety that comes with, oh my God, if I'm anxious, then it's gonna come off anxious, and then I'm anxious about that, and then I'm anxious about that, and then it just like, you just will die.
Yeah.
But like when, you know, you're trying to, you know, reach that same frequency with the character, like the character has a lot of anxiety, and hey, like I am this person, I am feeling anxiety. That's okay. Like, you know what I mean? Like this person is stressed out by the amount of people in a room. That's a one-to-one relationship with me to, you know, Rex in this case.
Yeah.
And like, I want to please people, like one-to-one, right? That was like the first step. And then obviously it's like the technical stuff of just like, now it doesn't even really quite register. You don't even really know why you're twisting your body, or why, like, you know, people on set would be like, can you turn your head just like a hair this way?
The context, yeah.
And you're like, okay, like I hope that's
for how long, like this?
Yeah. And you don't know necessarily the reason, but just because things are moving so quickly that, and you're honestly, if I was, you know, maybe something I would work on for next time would be, you know, asking questions so that I could feel like I can inhabit it a little easier. But, like now I see the shot, and I'm like, oh, of course. Like, I totally get it now. And like, it's cool. Like, it's like, oh, great.
Like we had him like ride a dolly.
Oh, that was just fun. I think.
Okay, good.
The dolly was
We had someone choking him, and he gets hit against a wall.
That was so cool.
He's actually probably one of the few people on set that has seen me freak out at someone. because he was riding a dolly and they went really fast on it and they should have secured it down.
Yeah.
And my biggest fear was him getting hit by a wall because it stops right before the wall. But then I just saw the dolly go through the wall with him on the fucking dolly. And I got up and I said, I don't know what I said. I think I went like, all right, does anyone want to tell me what just happened? What?
Oh, man.
Does anyone want to explain to me
Like
why that happened?
Yeah.
Like, I have a crew of 8 on this dolly, and you're telling me we didn't secure. Like, I was so mad. I like literally snapped. And
oh my God.
Because poor Sam is like, I'm so excited, and I'm like, like, don't get hit against the fucking wall. Yeah.
It ended up. I thankfully, I think, no injuries were had.
None.
But okay,
but fucking could have. Like, I just so pissed out. But yeah, when it comes to like stuff like that, I mean, yeah, that's like the fun stuff. But it's also like you're just asking an actor to ride a dolly, and you're like, just can you do it in character too while you're getting choked?
Totally,
Like, and you got to put trust in the crew that you haven't had too many conversations with.
Right, that's for sure. And like even just like getting to know the crew to the point that you can look at people's faces and be like, are they happy right now?
Yeah,
or are they like stressed about something?
Trying to read into it. Yeah.
Which is probably also can get, maladaptive when you're like looking for, it's the same sort of like if you see someone and they're like stressed out when in reality they're just focused, like then you start to be like, is this something worthy of stress? Am I doing something wrong?
Yeah, because I'll do the habit of just like looking past you but like at you, like where I'm just looking at light but I'm like looking directly at you. And I think a lot of actors will see a DP who they haven't maybe really interacted with or haven't had a lot of experience with DPs or gaffers or ops, and so they're looking right at you and you're just like, should I do something differently? Like, but they're literally just looking at how the shadow wraps on your face or like what highlight it is. And, and it's a hard thing because actors can obviously read into that if they don't have the context for what you're doing.
Right.
Which is tough because if you're scared already and then I'm just like this random person that comes on set after snapping at someone and I'm just like looking right at you without saying anything. It's like,
I think that is also, I mean, I'm really a novice, so especially towards like a professional set. But like, I don't know, I feel like I'm starting to realize like, oh, this is always how it's going to be, is like people are stressed out on a set, like, of course. And I feel like in some ways it's the actor's job to like manage. It really is like everyone's trying to manage their own stress right now. And so it's like, whether that's even just a mental internal process of like, relax, you're good. Like everyone here is working together. Yeah. Like, or it's like removing yourself, if you're allowed to, like, and trying to like ask, you can ask a crew member to like, hey, can you just like give me just a sec? I'll get right back to you in just a second. Yeah. And like asking for what you need and advocating for yourself.
Yes. That's great.
Is something also that I'm learning. I don't know. Yeah. All this is like a work in progress.
That is good. I mean, I feel like people probably don't teach actors to advocate for themselves on set. And I think that's a huge part of being able to drop in, right? It's just like,
knowing that you're safe and that like you have your own back, even if, like it's not that people aren't interested in having your back or that people are trying to screw you over or harm you. Yeah. It's that everyone is taking care of their own job in their own department. And sometimes they're not thinking about you. Sometimes they have no idea that you're cold. Sometimes they have no idea that something's hurting you. Like you have to speak up for yourself, which is hard and which feels like, we were talking about in a different episode that you don't want to ever, as an actor, you're so excited to have this role and you don't want to ever do anything that makes it seem like you're not grateful for the role. Yeah. And sometimes it feels like being like, hey, I can't stand here because of this, is you being like, hey, I actually don't want to do this role.
Yeah, but like, it's not the case.
Like that's what it feels like. It feels like you're breaking a rule.
But telling someone that the sun is in your eyes when you're not even shooting and you want to just get it out before you roll, like, is fair. You know what I mean? Right. Like human being things, like, like this is preventing me from doing my best, and we're there to protect you and create a safe space. So it's like actors that can advocate for themselves, I think, are just like a next step, like ahead of everyone else because you know how to make the best of what we're doing.
Right. And then also, right. And you know, there was like a mantra that my school, that I got from high school, which is from just like the most magical theater director, like the perfect theater director for like, you know, when you're like a 7th or 8th grader. Her mantra was always like, we serve the story and not ourselves. By serving the story, we serve ourselves, which was like lovely. And it, like, I've just recently been thinking about it more. We serve the story and not ourselves. By serving the story, we serve ourselves.
There you go. Gorgeous.
Did it? Oh my God.
Standing up.
That applause goes on for really long. I feel like, wow, it really meant something to these people.
Advocating for yourself while also recognizing that, like, you know, you don't want to be an asshole, certainly.
Yeah.
At the most extreme, but also like at a more interpersonal level, like everyone's doing their best. No one, you know, it's never combative to advocate for yourself. You know, like it should be a collaborative act.
That's great.
Always, you know.
What's your setup at home?
Setup at home is
what color's backdrop?
I've slowly it's blue.
Okay.
I slowly amassed for a long time, like in school, I would literally just shoot it up against my dorm room wall or my dorm room door, with like the most nasty fluorescent lights, and you know, because there wasn't. I mean, I don't know. I'm just like I just had a tripod and like, I didn't even have a ring light for like 4 years or something like that. Like I just was really doing run and gun kind of stuff because I was like, the performance will care, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, and then meanwhile you're like, oh, that's probably hurting me, so why am I doing that? But then I started to like amass stuff, especially when it would be so embarrassing to get a note being like, yeah, it's a great performance, great, I think they're gonna like it a lot. Do it again, but this time in focus would be great.
Oh no.
And you're like, oh,
What?
oh no. And you're like, I didn't even realize, like it just especially, not having that technical training, I don't know, but will show up. But you know, then I with each mistake you investigate the gear necessary to not make that mistake again. Yeah. And so like, you know, a ring light, or now like I have a little mic that like kind of sticks out because the reader sometimes is really loud and sometimes I'm really quiet. And I have a blue, like I only just got kind of the blue backdrop.
You pop up or
it's
I'm learning all this from Haley. It's like
a stand,
like the one you said, the C-stand
situation
every time.
And then I just throw over the blue blanket, and then there's a ring light, and I like move some furniture around to like make a little space, and then slide it all back. Do it all back up.
This thing that actors have to do of moving furniture every time you have an audition.
It's so cute.
It's so frustrating.
I once asked Sam to go with me to a salsa
class.
And he was like, I am prepping. Very important audition.
I said it exactly like that.
I have to
I
move
rolled my eyes.
Yeah, I'm prepping for this.
Took a deep sigh.
Extremely important audition. No. I would love to, but I cannot. And I was like, oh, okay.
Well, I'm sorry. It ended up being, you said it was like lackluster.
Which one?
The salsa class?
I didn't go.
Because you didn't
find
go?
anyone.
Oh my God.
But then I went like a few days later to another one with a friend, so it's fine.
Right.
But it was like a bummer because I was like, "What the fuck?"
I'm sorry.
No. I mean, I had someone lined up who dropped him.
Right.
Don't go with ex-boyfriends to try and be friends with them to a salsa class. They will drop last minute. Don't fucking.
Okay, I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah. Don't take your exes to salsa.
Don't take exes to salsa.
They'll say they want to do it and then they'll drop.
But then one day, you'll reach a point in your new friendship and you'll be like, "Wow. Let's do a salsa class together." I'm
aiming for it.
Yeah.
But so what is an important audition?
That's a good question. What do you think an important audition is?
No, Sam.
No, I want to know.
Hey, you keep saying, what do you think? They've heard what I think. An important audition is one that, you know how sometimes you get sides and you're like, okay, I can do this.
Right.
And then sometimes you get sides and it's like your insides set on fire and you have to do this.
Yeah,
like, you want to do it so bad, and you
bad.
immediately see this role like in like just like filling you up, and it lights you up in all kinds of ways.
Totally.
That's an important audition.
I think that's exactly my definition. That's very well put.
I even offered to be a free reader. I was like,
Wow.
I can read. And he was like, it's not about that. I'm like, you just don't want to go to something.
No. I think what it is like I think if there's a name, a director or even a star celebrity, not celebrity, but like an actor, that I just like greatly admire.
Mm-hmm.
Typically that's like my constellation that I'm always trying to chase after, is like working with people one day, hopefully, maybe if I can, hypothetically, work with them. Like if I see their name and it's like, oh my God, that's all I want.
Yeah.
It's just to like collaborate with that person. I think that's when I enter that space of like, but weirdly, like the more I'm excited about an audition, obviously excitement and abject terror are two sides of the same coin.
Mm-hmm.
And like extreme anxiety. So it's always like, then like when you get that, when that audition comes through and you're like, oh fuck. Like you have to like then sort of tell yourself, like, something I'm trying to learn now is like just doing it to do the audition. Like you get the part for one day when you do an audition, like kind of, and like
I like
really,
that.
I love that. You get the part for one day when you do the
like,
audition.
I like that.
Because, if the measure of success is through something ultimately you have no control over, which is just whether or not the film can invest that time in you, like if you measure it off that, like I did for a while, it would, you'd be heartbroken every time something like that would come and go, when it's only natural to. But then when you start, there's like you get to reach that sort of like inner play situation, where you start to be like, oh, like I'm just doing it to do it right now, and like what a gift that is, you know what I mean? And then weirdly, like you look back at the audition, and those are typically the ones I find myself most proud of, because I was like, oh, I took a risk there because I wasn't hedging, trying to like play it safe for fear of doing it one way or another that felt wrong or something like that. And I was like, no, I didn't care if it was wrong because it was fun, and I got to be in that space for a bit, like that headspace or that character,
that.
Yeah,
it's a good outlook to have.
Because then you guys were talking about, I don't know if this was on record or off record,
whatever,
but like say it anyway.
Yeah,
on record.
I edit this shit. So
like
I'll choose.
Like when you're doing it, you're doing that tape on the bed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
that's
on record.
That's on record.
Yeah, that's on
man.
record. Like
proud of that.
Me too.
Yeah. No,
it's so funny.
You get to, and you're working with like hopefully your friends, hopefully talented friends.
Yeah.
And then you're like, it kind of can become, without overdoing it, of course, because you don't want to like freak anyone out, but like it becomes a little short film that you get to do.
Yeah.
And it can be its own little art form. And that way, I don't know, I just sort of like enjoy myself and my time more.
Yeah.
And I think that comes through a little more. I don't know.
I like that. I like that outlook.
Yeah.
You get to be in the part
Love that.
for even that day. That's how you're going to keep actors believing in the roles, man.
Or just
keep them going.
Keep
them going. Just tell them they get to be in the part for one day.
Yeah. No, I need to tell myself that most of all. I mean, I say all of that.
Yeah.
Like, then, tomorrow if something comes through, I'll be like, oh my God, like I want it so bad.
Are you in therapy?
I am in therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am in therapy. Yeah.
I feel like you're in therapy as well.
Yes, intensive.
Are you in
therapy?
therapy?
No. I should be in therapy.
Heavily intensive therapy.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like,
Lots of
do you meet
therapy.
with them in person?
No. I wish.
Do you?
No. I used to.
Do you think you're better than us?
I
You don't
wish
meet
I
with your
could
therapist?
meet in person with my therapist. I loved going. I loved it.
Yeah.
I
The
loved when it
act.
was an event.
Yeah.
It was my crying appointment, and I would go, and I would.
Now she just is allergic to my cats and goes into my room and shuts the door and has her therapy session while I'm like in the kitchen.
No, the more things become, I mean, while I do, it is kind of nice to not have to like go a crazy long way in LA to go and see your therapist, but there is a sort of strange like channel surfing quality to life sometimes when you're like, oh yep, I'm on my work Zoom, great. Therapy, like my deepest trauma. Great. My movie that I'm watching, like, you know, like back to work, like, you know, like I'll watch a little.
Oh my gosh, this is
you know,
actually a nightmare that you're talking about. This is
Let me set up for that audition next. Let me read those sides. Yeah.
This is a Black Mirror
You just
episode.
it just like kind of rolls through you.
Accidentally do an audition when you thought you were in therapy.
Oh my God.
And you send that away.
Yeah, if your therapist at the end was like, and you got the role, kid. You're like, what the fuck? Yeah, that'd be honestly sick if I was.
Do you use the stuff you're learning in therapy in your own performances and rehearsals?
Definitely.
That you learn?
I think like it's funny because I feel like also in a way that we were talking about, like the therapist and acting teacher can weirdly become conflated. Yeah. And I think the better way, although like if an acting teacher truly cares about you, like, and they want to say like, hey, like think about, have you thought about this or that, you know, like that, if it comes from a place of love, you know, like that's great. But like, typically what's better is when your therapist tells you something about yourself, your life, and then you go like, oh, like that, like something in your, you know, whatever performance it is you're trying to work on, you're like, oh my God, like, cause it's all psychology, like we're just like trying to like puppet our brains in
that's
new
why
ways.
I ask. I think
right?
it's like, that's exactly like what I would hope that therapy would do as well, is like getting into the role of the character by being like, let me break it down.
Totally.
And then bring it up from there.
Right. And it becomes your way into a character. It becomes into your way of, you know, trusting yourself to go into a character, which, like you suddenly gain tools that you can feel more confident, you know, like taking something on. And okay. Yeah.
Well, we have to wrap things up.
Okay.
Because this was so amazing that I don't want to edit anymore. It's perfect as it is. Let's talk about something you're excited about. What are you excited about right now, Sam?
What am I excited about? Well, let me just say first, like, I learned a lot talking to you guys, and I really appreciate it. I always get really, really jazzed when like it's the turn of a month and the Criterion Channel drops their like lineup.
Oh, okay.
do you guys subscribe or watch anything?
No. So tell us what you're excited about.
Oh my God.
Get us excited.
The two collections that I'm really pumped for is like, I think there's a screwball comedy one, I want to say.
Fun.
Which I love. That's the one that's second place excitement. And then first place is snow westerns. So like westerns that are all like come on.
That's so fun.
No,
right? Westerns, like you don't see that, or there you see it, but it's just like it to me. Those are like my favorite is like Day of the Outlaw and all that. Just those like the landscape just becomes that much more like brutal.
It's amazing. Awesome.
That's what I'm excited. What about you guys? What are you guys excited for?
What are you excited about?
We did say he was a host.
Oh right. Yeah.
I am a host, guys. You guys are gonna have to leave, and I'm gonna just keep doing the show.
Yeah. Thanks. Haley, what are you excited about?
I'm excited to go back to the gym. That sounds stupid, but I've been away, and I really invested in a gym that I really like being at.
Wow.
And I haven't been there in a while. I like spending time.
It's her little
there.
spa day.
I really like spending time there. It does feel spa.
It's a little private place.
Yeah.
Cool.
I don't know what I'm excited about. Good chemical peel. I want a chemical peel.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm full of them. Where can we find you?
I have a complicated relationship with my own social media. Okay. But I do have an Instagram. One day it might become public. I have a few. You can find me in the streets of LA.
You can't find Sam Roach.
You can find me.
IMDb.
Yeah, maybe IMDb. Once
maybe?
Terry. No, I don't even know if I don't have an IMDb Pro. That's something I need to get. In fact, I should have already gotten that because I told someone I would do that. But
you can find him at future cinematography for actors.
Yeah,
events.
future cinematography for actor events is where I'll hang out. I kind of like
Party People Volume 1, Life or Death Debates.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, you can find Sam Roach on IMDb. There's no picture, but you can see 2 of his credits from 2019.
We love Sam.
Wait, the Ice Queen Society.
Yeah, I did. These are all like student films and friends, films with friends and stuff.
Films with friends.
Amazing.
Okay, so we ask everyone to sing us out.
Sing you out?
Yes.
Oh my God, is this my worst fear?
Oh, great.
So,
a nightmare?
It can be any song. It can be one verse, whatever. But we need you to sing us out.
Thank you.
It needs to be longer. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Thank you for being my friend.
Thank
you
you.
for do-do-do-do-do.
Killed it.
That was good.
You nailed
All
it.
right.
Thanks, Sam.
Thanks for listening.
That's Haley.
Tune in
That's Indiana.
And
next
that's our
decade.
co-host, Sam.
Your co-host Sam signing off.